What's going on, Q Crew? Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Suave Q, and you guys are tuned into the Q Pill podcast, where we keep it 100 all the time at all times, highlight the moronic fuckery that's currently plaguing Western civilization, as well as the repugnant realities that they so desperately want to eliminate. Now, in this episode, I want to respond to the video with Jada Cheeves, aka Lil Baby's ex-girlfriend, circulating the internet saying that men just don't worship the ground that women walk on anymore like we once did in the 80s and 90s. But before I get into it and before I respond, I'm going to need you guys to go ahead and click that like button, click that share button, click that subscribe button. Let your family, your friends, your colleagues, your peers get a dose of the Q pill as well, so that we can overdose on this reality, these facts, and this objectivity. Let's get into it. Now, this is the second time I've seen something circulating social media with a girl saying that men don't worship the ground that women walk on. I responded to a tweet a little while back, maybe about 2 weeks ago, where a woman said that men don't worship the ground women walk on anymore, and it's weird. And I proceeded to state that it's not weird. Women just aren't the women that they once were, and therefore there's less of men to respect and worship. I personally don't believe a man should be worshiping the ground women walk on anyway, because women don't really seem to be attracted to that. That's one of those things that they say they want, but when it comes to actually behaving and we get to see what they're exactly or what they're really attracted to, is one of the things that tend to get a negative response over time. Actually, it typically don't take that long. She may want you to worship the ground she walks on in the beginning of the infatuation stage, but as you guys' relationship continues to grow, and at about that 6-month mark, she wants you to start showing some balls. She wants you to start exhibiting some masculinity, because that's what women are inherently attracted to. And it's always these celebrity women speaking out as if they know what really is going on. And a lot of the times they just end up sounding like idiots, like Jada in this video right here. So let's take a look at the video so we can break down what she said.
And lately, like, I always be asking my friends, like, do y'all feel like the value of women to guys have went down, or guys just don't, respect us, appreciate us how they used to back in the 80s and the 90s? Like, women control literally, because I could say this now, but I only say that because of status. Like, we making hella money just like these. But as far as a man literally worshiping the ground a woman walk on, it's kind of rare these days. We running out of that. And it's kind of scary in society today. And I don't know, I might piss a lot of people off talking about this, but it's just conversations I be having with my friends. But guys don't appreciate us. I don't know what it is. This might be just something I talk about on maybe the first topic I talk about on my podcast, because I don't know. It's just a little weird these days. It's like we gotta fight for a spot in these lives, or they want to put. I don't know. I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna save this for my podcast, because y'all know I got a podcast coming out here. We all about to be acting normal. I got a podcast coming. Stay tuned. But yeah, I don't know. That's gonna be the first topic I talk about, though, because it's real different out here. But we do run the world for sure. We control the world. I feel like the reason it's spinning. Women are taking over day by day, and that's just all I'm gonna say for now.
Now, you guys just heard what she said. There was so many errors in what she said. Her way of thinking is so distorted, so flawed, and this is typical. This is what you typically hear come out of these women, especially black women. See, women are solipsistic, meaning whatever they personally experience themselves is what they attribute to be the case in general, and that's a phenomenon that's going on around the world. Like, it's ubiquitous. It's extrapolable to what women everywhere are experiencing. And I must say that this is typically something that's more profound in the black community, especially amongst black females, because they'll be the ones who are typically saying this, because they seem to be the group of women that are suffering the most. Asian women are still married, men still adore their women, and they're also feminine and submissive, and they continue to be wives. Same can be said for the Latino community with Hispanic wives. They do the exact same thing, and to a lesser degree white women. Even though white women are becoming more liberated, they still aren't as profound in what we see here with black women. But aside from that, let's start with the fucking obvious, because the reality is men aren't worshiping or seemingly worshiping. And I want y'all to understand, the men that she's talking about is the men that they want, she likes. So her ex per se, or any woman that agrees with her, these are women who want men that they want, that don't want them. They want them to behave like this. But the truth of the matter is that they aren't the women from the 80s and 90s. It's that simple. How can women expect men to behave in a way that men typically behaved in natural response to the way that women once were, and you're no longer that woman? If women were more submissive, if women valued marriage, if women were more ladylike, classy, respectable, then maybe men would just worship the ground that they walk on. But see, these aren't today's women. These aren't the modern women. So in order to demand a certain level of respect, you still have to be that in which you were once respected that way. And that's not the case here. She says, we aren't treated like the men in the 80s and the women in the 80s and the 90s anymore. Because you're not that woman. The women in the 80s and 90s knew when to shut the fuck up. The women in the 80s and the 90s weren't all over social media shaking their ass and twerking for likes and attention. The women in the 80s and the 90s didn't have OnlyFans. The women in the 80s and the 90s wasn't as empowered by the strong independent woman narrative as today's women are. The women in the 80s and the 90s weren't as insufferable, intolerable, as classless, as lascivious, as nerve-wracking, as conniving, as spiteful, as petty, as aggressive, as domineering, as overbearing as today's modern women are. That's one of the most significant reasons why men don't worship the ground that these women walk on. And then if we just take that subset and a subset of black women, a cohort of black women, and we look at just how detrimental their behaviors are, you'll see that there is even less to respect in the black community amongst black women than there are with any other cohort of women. See, you'll notice why black men especially, tend to gravitate towards other ethnicities of women when they can, is because those women exhibit the qualities. Those women exhibit the traits. Those women exhibit the characteristics, the attitudes, the values, the mentalities that men, if they were going to worship a ground that a woman walk on, would embody those characteristics that men could then worship that ground that those women walk on. But today's modern women, oh no, they don't exemplify that. So it's asinine to me to even want to imagine why she would believe that would be the case, as if they're still the women from the 80s and 90s. And then next, she tries to hit on, oh, it's because most of us are making our own money. The average black woman in America does not make that much money. If you take the top 30 states in which black women occupy the most, and you take the average income from those 30 states and you average them across those 30 states, it's about $36,000, $37,000, with the highest income being Washington D.C. at about $51,000 per year. So it's not like there's this significant increase in women being able to get to their own money, especially relative to black men who still make more on average across the country, regardless of state. And compared to other demographics of women, black women don't typically make that much. And if you look at every culture or ethnicity of women, period, men typically still tend to make more. So it don't matter how much these women are getting to the bag, as they claim, especially when they're doing it from being sexual and from OnlyFans and from stripping. That shit don't matter. It doesn't matter. They're still not getting to the bag the way that they would need to be in order to even compete with men. The majority aren't. See, she's speaking for herself. She's a woman who's dated a high status male and Lil Baby, a rapper. So this is her perception. Her perception, she doesn't even consider the fact that she's in the minority. She's a small sample size. She's a small, insignificant statistical percentage of the overall population of women with this mentality. That doesn't apply to her. And then this whole idea about women making the world go round. Women don't make the world go round outside of consumer behavior, because women are the top consumers of materialistic things. And you have these women who make the world go round when it comes to simps and panderers who are constantly in their DMs and in their comments telling them how beautiful that they are, and that if only I had a chance and you're my world, baby, and all this other kind of weird shit that you see in the comments of these women on social media that does nothing but further reaffirm the idea that they are indeed the prize. But it's interesting because those are the guys who tend to worship the ground that they walk on. They're doing it right there in their comments. Yet we see that those aren't the men that those women want. See, they want men of high status. They want men of prestige, men of prominence to worship the ground that they walk on. And that's highly unlikely because those men themselves are in highly prominent positions, more prominence than the women who demand that they worship the ground that they walk on. They're in higher positions than those women. And they typically tend to be masculine. They typically want women who are feminine and submissive and cooperative, agreeable. They don't want to worship the ground a woman walks on. That's not how they're built. They aren't these Disney fairy tale betas. Yet these are what these women are demanding. This is what they're demanding. They become so entitled that they believe that they should be appreciated for qualities that they don't have. Are they not? It's bewildering to me. These women believe that men should worship and cherish and respect them and appreciate qualities that they don't exhibit. We can't appreciate what isn't there. And this is the reason that most of these women are single, and they don't seem to fathom that. It's something that's difficult for them to understand. See, it's so interesting because if you wonder why men don't behave a certain way or why they don't do certain things, you could look for men who do those things to women, and then you can look at the women and see what are they doing that I'm not doing that has resulted in the men behaving in the ways in which I wish men would behave towards me. And I'm pretty sure you'll see large disparities in feminine traits, feminine qualities, hell, even physical appearance. I'm pretty sure you'll see large disparities, significant disparities that would absolutely be attributable to why you're not feeling appreciated, why you feel like the ground you walk on isn't worship. And then there are other women who are actually getting this level of appreciation, this level of reverence. This is what we have bred. Women of today are not the women of the 80s and the 90s, especially in the black community, which is why they struggle so much with maintaining relationships, which is why they struggle so much with actually getting guys to want to get down on one knee and propose to them, because they don't feel that they can. There's nothing to appreciate. There's nothing to respect. You chose your life. You wanted to seek attention and validation from social media, OnlyFans, twerking, posing, showing your body off to the world, things that were not once acceptable morally, socially in America, that has now become a source of empowerment, something we applaud, something that deserves a standing ovation. All this self-love, independence, strong women this, strong women that. Anything that results in women feeling empowered, feeling like feminism has been beneficial to them when it's actually done more harm than good, those things men don't find respectable. Men aren't going to worship the ground that women who do those things walk on, because that's not something that's attractive as a long-term mate, as a wife. That's something that's appealing temporarily, instantaneously, sexually arousing for the moment, for the time being. But we very well understand as men that this isn't the type of woman that we can grow to appreciate, that we can grow to worship, that we can grow to revere. Because her attitude, her mentality is simply not there. Women don't make the world go round. They help men feel as though we have something to look forward to when we wake up the next day, if they're worth keeping around. And she said she's coming out with a podcast. All these people coming out with podcasts just sit around and say unsubstantiated shit, spew bullshit ass opinions about dating, about politics, or about whatever they feel is a hot topic. But this is the reality of it. We can't appreciate what isn't there. Whatever these women desire to have, they would first have to be the women who men want to exhibit that for. And they simply aren't. And it's that simple. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm Suave Q, aka the Q Pill. You guys be blessed, be safe. Over and out.